Attorney Headley, I believe you're going to call your next witness, and then we'll have the court reporter swear her in. Who is your next witness?
The next witness will be Deputy City Attorney Mary Schanning.
President Bach, if I just want to confirm, Channel 25 is back also. Jamie,
All right,
could you please confirm?
Yes, we are back on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the court reporter please swear in the witness?
If you could raise your right hand, please, and tell me when you've done so.
I have done so.
In the testimony you're about to give under the pains and penalties of perjury of the state of Wisconsin, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you, President Bach. Good morning. Can you state your name and occupation, please?
My name is Mary Schanning, Schanning, and I am a Deputy City Attorney for the Milwaukee City Attorney's Office.
How long have you been with the Milwaukee City Attorney's Office?
I was originally hired in November of 2011. I was initially hired as an assistant city attorney, and then in 2016 was appointed to Deputy City Attorney. I remained in the office until early 2021, at which time I left and then was reinstated and came back to the office in April of 2024. I'm sorry, May of 2024.
In your current title as?
Deputy City Attorney, correct.
Okay, excellent. Can you please describe for me when you returned to the office in May of 2024, what the status of the office was?
Sure. So the current city attorney, Evan Goike, had just been elected to the position. He was newly elected and newly serving. At that time, I believe we had 9 vacancies in our attorney positions. At that time, the office was short 1 deputy. Another deputy had been asked to resign or to leave the office by the newly elected city attorney. So we were down considerable staff. We were also working towards preparing the city for the Republican National Convention, which was coming up in July. And so there was a lot of lawyers doing a lot of extra work, and we were very short-staffed.
You identified briefly that a lot of attorneys were working on the Republican National Convention. Can you describe for me generally what type of work the office of the city attorney handles?
Yes. So basically, the city attorney's office handles all of the legal work for the city of Milwaukee, as well as the housing authority for the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee Public Schools. This is everything from handling litigation that the city is involved in, both as a defendant and as a plaintiff. It involves all of the prosecution of traffic and non-criminal citations issued by the Milwaukee Police Department. All of the contracting for the city, both purchasing, development agreements, and everything in between. We handle the employment work for the city. We represent all of the bodies and commissions, including this commission, as well as the Redevelopment Authority, the Port of Milwaukee, Board of Harbor Commissioners. Basically, it is all of the legal work for the city of Milwaukee, MPS, and the Housing Authority.
Is it fair to say that is an important office?
A very important office with 39 lawyers when fully staffed.
If not fully staffed, or if everybody's not firing all cylinders, what's the potential ramifications?
Well, potential ramifications include that the city is not well represented in the legal matters presented to it. Basically, if we are not fully staffed, things tend to fall through the cracks. Things are not handled as diligently and as detail-oriented as they should. When we are not fully staffed, our clients, the various city departments, tend to not necessarily wait for our opinion or our input and move forward, which is detrimental and potentially a high-risk situation legally for the city.
I'm going to turn your attention now to Exhibit A18, which is in front of you in this. Do you recognize what this document is?
I do. This is the job description for our business. What is the job description? Oh, business systems coordinator position in the city attorney's office.
And you're aware that that's the job title that Mr. Young held at the time of his separation from employment?
Correct.
All right. And Mr. Young is the gentleman to my left?
Correct.
So reviewing, can you identify for me why the business systems coordinator is such an important role for the office of the city attorney if he's not performing any legal work?
Sure. The city attorney's office is a bit unique in the city in that we do have an internal IT position. The rest of the city and most of the departments rely on the city's overall IT department, which is ITMD. But the city attorney's office has its own internal IT person because we have information and databases in our system that are protected by attorney-client privilege, and also that require special security clearance through the Criminal Justice Information System, or CJIS. The city attorney's office has software that it utilizes that other departments do not utilize, which involve our case management software as well as our document management software. ITMD is not able to service these because they are unique to our office. They are also the databases that include our attorney-client privileged information that should only be accessed by an IT person in our department.
Thank you. Can you identify what role you were performing as a deputy city attorney in the summer of 2024?
In the summer of 2024, in July specifically, is when the city attorney appointed all of his deputies and had them sworn in. So that was early July. At that time, I became the deputy over the real estate contracts and education section of the office, but I also oversaw a number of members of our support staff, including Mr. Young, our HR administrator, our finance director, and I believe that's it.
Do you know why you became the direct supervisor to those folks that you just listed?
The city attorney asked me to take on that role. He wanted somebody with supervisory experience and experience in the office to oversee those roles. In the past, it had been under the former city attorney, supervised by the special deputy city attorney, which was a position that was no longer filled or financed for the department. So as the most seniority deputy, the city attorney asked me to take on that role.
And if you can take a look back at A18 for me, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the job duties that were required and expected of the business systems coordinator?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. I'm going to turn your attention to paragraph 11, which indicates the basic function of the position, which is in the middle of the page, on the first page of the document on A18. The middle of that paragraph reads, "This work is to be performed in the office of the city attorney in the main office location and at the city attorney's ordinance enforcement division in the police administration building, OED." Did I read that sentence correctly?
Yes.
Why is that provision included in this, the basic functions of the position?
The city attorney's office is divided into two office locations, one across the street from where we are now in the Zeidler Municipal Building, which is the city attorney's main office. And then there is a satellite office located in the police administration building where our prosecution unit is housed. We call that our ordinance enforcement division, or OED. Those are the attorneys that prosecute municipal citations for the city. It's important that it's noted that the location includes both of these because we need our IT person to be able to service the employees, the computers, and the staff in both locations.
Turning your attention now to the description of the job, and we'll start with the essential functions in that first and second page, the first bullet point there. Manages the daily operations and maintenance of the city attorney's local area network, LAN, and file servers, including maintenance of department-specific applications and data systems. Are those data systems that you were referring to with attorney-client privilege information?
Yes.
Okay. And would those also include any kind of access to criminal information, criminal justice information?
It basically includes all of the applications that our office uses. So yes, the CJIS databases, as well as our case management and document management systems.
Okay. I'm going to turn your attention to page 2 of 5 on A18. I'm going to direct your attention to the 10% column, and then that's entitled User Support and Training, and the last bullet point therein. Assists the Ordinance Enforcement Division staff in the use of specialized software and resources. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you mean? What do you know that to mean?
Again, this would be the special software that our prosecutors use in our Ordinance Enforcement Division office, which includes, not exclusively, but does include the CJIS databases, for which we require special security clearance.
Okay. And the CJIS databases that OED can access, can you identify them for me?
Sure, there are a number of databases that are accessed through an online portal called eTime. Those databases include Wisconsin Department of Transportation records, DNR records, Department of Corrections records from the state of Wisconsin, as well as the criminal information system operated by the State Department of Justice, and then also the federal national law enforcement, I forget what the acronym stands for, it's NLETS, but it provides access to criminal information from other state agencies outside of Wisconsin.
And why does the Ordinance Enforcement Division need access to that information?
Our prosecutors use this information when they're doing, when they're reviewing citations issued by the police department. They also utilize it when they are negotiating plea deals with people charged with municipal citations. It allows them basically to have immediate access to current data with regards to a person's criminal background, their driver's record, vehicle registration, whether or not they have a warrant. It provides data on sex offender registries, vehicle registration information. Basically, all of this information allows our prosecutors to efficiently know at the moment what the current status of a person who is appearing before them or seeking a plea deal, so that we can take into consideration the actual background and information in their record when determining what to offer them as a plea deal.
Do the computers at the police, do all the computers that the city attorney's office uses in the Police Administration Bureau have access to these software programs?
I believe that all of the lawyers do. It is unclear to me whether all of the support staff does.
Sure. Would a woman by the name of Mary Lyles have access to that?
Mary Lyles would in fact have access, and in fact she is, for lack of a better word, designated as our administrator of the CJIS databases. She coordinates to make sure everybody who has access to the office and the computers goes through a background check to pass CJIS clearance. She's also responsible for making sure that everybody with access to the CJIS databases has the proper training and continues to maintain the security clearance.
I'm gonna revert back just a little bit here. Still keeping with A18. Well, actually, before we get into that, so can you look into what's noted here as AU3, which has been admitted into evidence, I believe, as A27? A27?
Same thing.
Um, looking at this, can you identify for me the date that this document A27, which is AU3, was prepared?
This was prepared on January 14th, 2022.
Okay. And to be clear, you weren't in the office at that point in time.
I was not.
Okay. Do you know that this position to be the same position that Mr. Young is still presently in?
Mr. Young is not presently in any position.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Was in when you started work with the employee, with this office of the city attorney in 24?
No, it is my understanding that this is the position that Mr. Young was initially hired into in 2022, but in January of 2024, the position was reclassed and provided a significantly higher salary.
Sure. I'm going to turn your attention to the middle of paragraph 11 again on document A27.
Yes.
This work is to be performed in the office of the city attorney in the main office location and at the city attorney's ordinance enforcement division in the police administration building, OED. Is that identical to the job description in A18?
It is.
Turning your attention now to the second page of A27. Under user support and training, the fourth bullet point down, assist ordinance enforcement division staff in the use of specialized software and resources. Is that identical to the job description in A18? 13? Yeah.
It is.
Is it your understanding then that in order to be able to access the physical location of the building and the software programs necessary, Mr. Young would need to be cleared through the CJIS process?
In order to appear, in order to be present at the OED office unescorted, he would require CJIS clearance as well as to access the computers in that office.
Okay, let's talk about that word unescorted for a minute, please.
Yes.
What does that mean and what does that look like at the office at OED?
So in order, if somebody is entering the office escorted because they don't have the proper clearance, this means that a member of the staff in the OED office has to drop their work, meet that person at the entrance to the building, escort them through security to enter the city attorney's office in that building, and then remain with them the entire time that they are in that office.
Now, to be clear, can an individual who's not CJIS cleared, who's an individual, let's say, who is being prosecuted by the municipal, by the OED, can they walk to the front desk of the OED?
There is a window that the public can access. Yes.
So anybody who doesn't have CJIS clearance could go to the front desk of the Ordinance Enforcement Division.
Correct.
Could not get access to the inner workings of it, though.
Correct.
Okay. Right. When you became Mr. Young's supervisor in July of 2024, did you identify any issues with his employment?
I did receive a number of verbal and email, I would say, complaints or concerns from members of the office over the course of several months. I would also note that I myself was a bit concerned when Mr. Young asked me for my password. Initially, or shortly after I returned to the office, I knew that that was not something that an IT person should be doing. But I did receive a number of concerns and other complaints about his performance. I also received from David Hankey, who is the head of ITMD, the results of an IT survey that ITMD had provided, and David provided me with the results from people in our office some of which included some concerns and issues with Mr. Young's performance.
Did you do anything, or were you doing anything to address those issues?
Due to the heavy workload that we initially had when I came back to the office, initially, no. When people would come to me and complain, I would specifically ask them to document any concerns. I didn't want to take any action against Mr. Young based on generalities. So people did start sending me more documented evidence of shortcomings. In August, I did reach out to DER just to talk about next steps. However, we were dealing with other performance issues and other employees that were of greater precedence and importance at that time. So I did not actually take any action with regards to a performance improvement plan or any other ways to address performance issues at Mr. Young.
Was that likely going to be your next step, though, performance improvement plan?
That was likely to be the next step, yes.
Why didn't you, why weren't you able to do a performance improvement plan?
We were focused on other employees in the time who had performance improvement plans. Again, the other employees I felt had more concerning performance issues than Mr. Young. Also, I was hoping that people would get me additional evidence of concrete performance deficiencies in Mr. Young before we took any action with the performance improvement plan.
Sure. My apologies for that. My question wasn't clear. Did something happen which made you put a pause on the performance improvement plan?
Yes. So in October or November of last year, I was notified that by Mary Lyles in our Office of Enforcement or Ordinance Enforcement Division, that we had received notice that we were undergoing an audit by CGIS. Initially, she had reached out to Mr. Young to assist with that audit, but I think it quickly became clear to her that
I'm going to object. This is hearsay. They could have brought this witness in, but they chose not to, and have her testify in place of Mrs. Lyle is not appropriate, in my opinion.
Oh, if I may. One, this commission, as you are well aware, is not bound by the rules of civil procedure to the T. Secondarily, this is information as to why the steps were taken that they were taken, not made for the truth of the matter, asserted, therefore not hearsay.
And I think, as I indicated earlier in the day, it seems to me from the record that this witness, Deputy Mary Schanning, was performing as the personnel officer, in fact. So I'm going to allow her to testify more broadly in this case because of that role.
Thank you, President Beck. All right. Can you, so I believe you were speaking that Mary Lyle, and I'll let you continue. My understanding is Mary Lyle's contacted you. Can you proceed, please?
Yes, Mary Lyles contacted me and expressed some concern with the answers that we were required to provide as part of the audit by CGIS. In particular, the concern that we did not have it's referred to as a LASO and LASO in the CGIS policy, which would be the person responsible for our computer networks. Typically, that would be the IT person in the city attorney's office, but she was aware that Mr. Young had not passed CGIS clearance, and so she was aware that she could not list him in that role. She had reached out to, she informed me that she reached out to ITMD to see if they could assist in any way, but was told that they could not serve in that role either. And so she was concerned about how to answer those questions.
Okay, can you turn your attention to Exhibit D2? D2 should be a 19-page document. What do you recognize this document to be?
This is the document that Mary Lyle sent to me when I asked her to send me a copy of the audit questionnaire that she had received.
Did you review this audit questionnaire?
Yes.
Okay. I'll direct your attention to the fourth line from the top. It says report created Friday, November 8th, 2024, Central Standard Time.
Yep.
Is that on or about the date that you received this document from Ms. Lyles?
I believe that I received it from her on November 11th, but had probably requested it from her prior to that. So it's consistent with the timeframe.
Right. And when you reviewed this document, what stuck out to you as potentially problematic, if anything?
On page 2 of the document, the very first section at the top, does the agency perform a thorough background screening on all personnel prior to granting unescorted access to the time system, CJIS systems, and our criminal justice information? And the note, all personnel includes IT contractors. This led to me to believe that specifically Mr. Young was included in that background requirement. I was aware that he did not have CJIS clearance to enter the city attorney's office. So this raised concerns for me. And then the questions below that about the screening process, performing background checks and submitting fingerprints for all personnel with access to the physically secure location. Again, I knew that while we had gone through that background check with Mr. Young when he was hired in 2022, I was also aware that he did not pass and did not have that access. So that initially raised a concern. And then also these concerns go again into the next page, page 3, under section 4, where it talks about, doing the background check and the security procedures. At that time, I was not aware of what types of convictions Mr. Young had in his background, but I was aware that there were some. But there's mention here of both felony and misdemeanor offenses. So that gave me some pause. And then also on page 4, this is where it requests the information on the LASO, which I can now see is the local agency security officer. And I was aware that we did not have one of those for our office, and therefore would not be able to identify one for the audit, which would cause concerns.
When you received this document and you reviewed it and you identified those concerns, what did you do next?
I brought this up to the attention of the city attorney. I expressed those concerns to him and the need to take action before the audit was due. I believe it was due on November 23rd. So the first thing I did was to notify the city attorney of these concerns.
What did you do after you identified the concerns to City Attorney Goike?
The two of us talked to the Department of Employee Relations to talk about potential next steps. As a result of that, it became fairly clear that if we were going to pass this audit, we could not have Mr. Young as our IT person. So we talked to staff at DER about whether there was a possibility to terminate his employment because of this.
Before you spoke with DER, did you have the occasion to speak with Assistant Chief Craig Sarno?
Actually, that came later.
Okay, can you identify what happened with that?
Yes. As part of the entire process, after speaking with DER, they suggested that I do a little bit more due diligence before we took any steps with Mr. Young. So I did some research. Again, I looked at the questionnaire. I found the CJIS policies and confirmed what I believe to be the concerns with regards to Mr. Young and his background. I also, because at that time I was our acting HR administrator, was able to access Mr. Young's personnel file. And at that point I became aware of the prior background check, which was the rationale for why he did not have CJIS clearance previously. When I saw that, I noted that Nick Desiato, who is currently the chief of staff in the mayor's office, and at that time was chief of staff in the Milwaukee Police Department, had been one of the people who either signed that form or sent it to the city attorney's office in 2022. I reached out to Nick to ask him if he was aware who in MPD I could contact currently to get additional information about the CJIS process. And he directed me to Assistant Chief Sarno.
Before we touch more back on D2, can you take a look at A1 for me, please?
Yes,
Is A1 the document that you were able to access as a result of having being the personnel officer?
yes,
Okay,
one of many.
okay. And then turn to A3 for me, please. Is that the background check that you were referring to, which was also,
Yes.
okay.
I should add as well, in addition to having this in the personnel file, I was also able to obtain it because as the acting HR administrator, I was given access to the former HR administrator's email. And through the email, I was able to access the copies of the emails from Nick Desiato that sent this to the office originally in 2022.
Okay. After you reviewed this and then contacted Assistant Chief Sarno, what was that conversation like?
At that time, I was just doing due diligence. We had not taken any action with Mr. Young's employment at that time. So I, at that time, did not mention who I was asking about, but just asked general questions of AC Sarno as to the process that MPD goes through for a CJIS clearance. He walked me through the steps, basically stating that an applicant fills out a information with personally identifiable information, does a fingerprint card with the police department. That gets submitted. They do a background check. And at that point, MPD, whoever's doing the background checks at that time, reviews the any offenses that show up on the criminal background check and evaluates that for concerns about having access to the building or to the CJIS databases. He pinpointed to me that convictions involving theft or fraud or drugs tend to raise red flags, but that there are other types of offenses that do as well. I asked him about the difference between a felony conviction and a misdemeanor. He said they look at both. I also asked about timing, knowing that Mr. Young's convictions had been a bit in the past. And he brought up an example of a recent Equal Rights Division case that had been decided in the city's favor with very similar circumstances where the criminal offenses were as old as 2007. And in that case, the city was found to be okay with terminating employment because of the lack of CJIS clearance for a janitorial employee.
After you had that meeting with AC Sarno, what did you do next?
The meeting with AC Sarno reaffirmed to me that even if we submitted Mr. Young's background, again, it was not likely that he was going to pass. So at that point, I believe the decision was made that, well, actually, I should take a step back. In addition to talking to AC Sarno, I also took some additional due diligence steps, including researching the law, the Wisconsin Fair Employment Act, as well as the city's civil service rules and case law of similar circumstances, because I wanted to make sure that what we were doing was not going to violate any of those. So I did that additional research. I sent that information along with a summary of my conversation with AC Sarno to Harper Donahue in the Department of Employee Relations and said, this is where we are. Talked to the city attorney and the rest of the management staff, which would be the other 3 deputies, and made a determination that our only option at this point was to terminate his employment.
Now, to be clear, did any of Mr. Young's performance issues or the evidence and the content that you were gathering beforehand come into play during this analysis that you performed?
Absolutely not. And in fact, the complaints that I had received against Mr. Young were going to lead to a performance improvement plan, not necessarily termination. When we came into the office, we recognized that a lot of the employees that had been hired under the previous city attorney did not receive a lot of training and support, and we were hoping that we could correct any deficiencies by providing training and support to the employees rather than termination.
As a part of your due diligence and review, did you look to see what the consequences would be for the Office of the City Attorney not passing the CGIS audit?
Yeah, this was something, not only did I look at the CGIS regulations, but also a conversation with AC Sarno, is that if we were to be violating the policies and could not pass that audit, it was very likely we were going to lose access to the CGIS databases, but not only the city attorney's office, it could potentially threaten the access for the entire Milwaukee Police Department since it's housed in the same building.
Okay. And would that be detrimental to the Office of the City Attorney?
Extremely detrimental. The amount of efficiencies that our attorneys get from access to these databases is immense. If we did not have access, we would have to rely on either the police department or municipal court pulling all of the backgrounds for us for each of the defendants that would be appearing. By the time that information got to our attorneys, it would already be outdated. The greatest efficiency that we receive from having access, direct access to this database, is that we have the most accurate, most up-to-date information when we are dealing directly with defendants one-on-one.
When, this is a little bit of a sidestep here, but do you have any supervisory authority over the Milwaukee Police Department?
No.
Could you have ordered the Milwaukee Police Department to grant Mr. Young access to the building?
No.
Could you have ordered the police department to grant Mr. Young access to the database systems?
No, the access to the database and all of the CGIS background is entirely with the MPD. They are required to do the initial review and then they send it up to the feds if MPD is willing to support the clearance.
Do you know what would happen if a person who did not have CGI clearance or CGIS clearance accessed a database without that authorization?
We would certainly be in violation of our agreement with CGIS and in violation of all the regulations that go along with that. And we would probably, I assume, lose our access to those databases.
Okay. And to be clear, the form that you have in front of you, D2, who sent this form or what agency is this form from?
I believe we get the form directly from the Wisconsin Department of Justice, the Criminal Crime Information Bureau.
Thank you.
I can wrap up this line of questioning here, and my apologies for.
No, I think we're on track.
Okay.
Are you going to cover a subject or are you going to wrap up?
I do have just a couple other questions to address. So given the fact that it is 12:15, do you want me to pause or do you want me to keep going?
Well, that's why I'm trying to ask the question. If you're going to go to another subject,
Correct.
and will that run more than 10 or 12 minutes?
I hope not.
All right, then we'll try to take it on.
Okay, thank you. When you ultimately came to the decision, did you come to the decision to separate Mr. Young in conjunction with City Attorney Goike?
Yes,
Okay.
it was ultimately his decision.
Can you take a look at what's been marked as D3, please?
Yes.
I'll represent to you. It's a 2-page document. Do you recall this document?
Yes.
And what is this?
This is a document that we delivered in person to Mr. Young on November 20th, 2024. We had a meeting scheduled with him, at which time we placed him on paid administrative leave and handed this document to him.
Did you subsequently have a pre-discharge meeting?
We did. We had the pre-discharge meeting on December 2nd. That meeting, the first meeting, I should say, involved myself, City Attorney Goike, and Deputy City Attorney Robin Pedersen. The meeting on December 20th was just Robin Pedersen and I, as Attorney Goike was on paternal leave.
Turning to D4 and D5. Are those the documents you provided with to Mr. Young regarding the pre-discharge meeting?
Yes, this was emailed and sent via regular mail to him prior to the pre-discharge meeting.
Okay. I'll direct your attention to that middle paragraph on D4.
Yes.
The meeting is being held to follow up on the meeting we had with you on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, during which we discussed your inability to fulfill one of the central functions of your position due to the fact that you cannot obtain security clearance from the Criminal Justice Information Service, CJIS, because of criminal convictions in your background. Was that the only reason why Mr. Young was set for separation from employment?
Yes.
When you had the pre-discharge meeting with him, did Mr. Young indicate any ability to get access to CJIS?
He had brought up a couple of suggestions. In particular, he asked whether we could, submit his background again to see if it would pass. He also asked if it was a possibility to get his convictions expunged, if that would change anything. He did also argue that, he had been doing the job for 3 years and didn't understand why this was suddenly coming up now, since he had access to the computers during the 3 years that he held the position.
What were your responses to those things that Mr. Young brought up?
With regards to running the background check again, we informed him that subsequent or prior to that time, I had another conversation with AC Sarno, where at this point I did ask him specifically about Mr. Young's background and whether it would pass background check now, and he confirmed that it would not be approved by MPD and would not be sent to the feds for further review. He, with regards to the expungement question, we expressed that yes, if that was a possibility, we would consider it. And then with regards to his having access to the computers in the past during the 3 years that he held the position, we explained to him the concerns that access that he had was in violation of the policy, something we were not aware of, but that not only was he violating the policy, he was making the entire office violate the policy, including particularly Mary Lyles, who was in charge of making sure that people were CJIS cleared before they were accessing that. So to avoid any future violations of the policies, and particularly to stop Ms. Lyles from being forced to violate the policy by letting him have access to those computers, there really was no other choice, and we couldn't continue to have him in that position.
Is it fair to say that the city attorney refused to lie to the federal government regarding Mr. Antoine Young's background?
It's fair to say the current city attorney refused to lie. I cannot speak to the prior city attorney. He didn't seem to care.
Can you turn your attention now to, again, D9 for me, please? Single page document. Do you recall this document?
Yes, I prepared it.
Okay. Can you identify for me, and again, this is a separation notice, non-disciplinary. Can you identify for me in the box 2, the third box down, unable to receive a CJIS clearance, which is necessary to perform the essential functions of the position? Is that a normal box that can be selected by individuals who fill out this form?
No, that was something that I added because none of the other boxes that exist on the form met I felt met the reasoning and the rationale as to why we were doing this non-disciplinary separation.
Okay. Because he didn't fail to return upon upon a leave of absence?
No.
He didn't request a leave of absence and get denied it?
Nope.
He wasn't revoked from having a leave of absence?
No.
He simply just could not perform the essential job functions that we previously mentioned?
Correct.
At this point in time, I have no further questions, and it is 12:22. So like I said,
Okay.
10 minutes.
I think we're going to defer cross-examination and questions from the commissioner, which means that tomorrow, Deputy City Attorney Mary Schanning would be the first witness when we resume the hearing. As I explained early on, we are going to have our regular business tomorrow at 1:30. However, it's very brief, in my opinion. And so I think the party should be ready to go, be at the table by 1:45. That's my opinion. I don't know if other commissioners or Mr. McLean have any different view.
Well, as a point of clarification, I'm ordered to be in a federal court tomorrow at 2:00. It's just a scheduling conference and I don't anticipate it to take longer than 20 minutes. But that's where I will be at that time.
Well, so will you be here at,
I'll be here. I'll conduct it in the hallway and I can return here.
oh,
But had anybody asked me when they said, reset this, I would have been happy to inform them of my prior obligation.
well, you said that's at 2:00?
It's at 2:00.
Well, if things work the way then we may or may not, we'll see how it goes. We might have to resume at 2:15. That's, we'll play it by ear. Commissioners, at this point, I think we'll recess and we'll return with Attorney Headley, direct examination of Deputy City Attorney Mary Schanning.
Any motion? I'm just asking.
No, well, if you want,
No.
I'll ask do you want to move for recess? I thought I'd announce it, but,
Yeah, I don't think there's a motion required for the recess. I don't believe there's motions required for recess.
we're recessed.
Thank you all.